So this next set of letters I have struggled with, but they have ultimately taught me a very important letters about letters writ large. And this was kind of a not quite realized, but somewhat romantic relationship I had with a character some years ago. And we were both probably in funny places, but we were both creatives. We had met at a retreat of sorts, somehow ended up in this epistolary correspondence, meaning via letters. And he was something of a had come from a business background, but was something of a budding visual artist. And after a certain point of exchanging letters, he would cut up my letters and then, in a really brilliant combination, create these like pastiches of, my letter with a painting and or a picture of his with something that he was writing. And you see them here again, my writing integrated into his drawings and writings. But the first few times it happened, yes, I could appreciate the assemblage, the collage of it all, but I was deeply hurt because I was like, I'm not a visual artist. I'm a musician and a writer. What I write is my art, and I have like poured myself physically and mentally and emotionally into these letters, and you're going to cut them up? Like, how dare you? And I kind of playfully said something about it, and then he continued to do it. And then I more directly said something about it, and he stopped doing it. But then that kind of changed the whole tenor of, our written exchange and whatever. But I mean, I will say these were beautiful letters. I mean, they were artistic envelopes to the hilt, and they were long letters, funny letters, deeply contemplative about all of the major life issues and art and temperament and intonation and theories on vibration and sound and what it is to be in the world, and also just kind of funny and about the more pedestrian things too. And I don't know what the moment was, but I finally had a moment, I think, upon discovering a letter from my college boyfriend that, you know, once you send a letter, it's like giving a gift. It's not yours anymore. Like the gift is the letter and you gave it. And so if I gave him this letter and he wants to cut it up, that's his prerogative. And I retain no ownership of this. Just like when you give love, it shouldn't be possessive. It shouldn't be conditional. You give it because you feel it. And it's just that free flow of energy. To quote Goethe, my love for you is of no concern of yours. Well, my letter to you is of no concern of mine after I put a stamp on it and give it to the mail service. So that really changed my purview on letters, and it's what kind of compelled me to start writing the show around letters. Is this idea of like, you can't control how things will be received. You can't control how someone will take what you say. You can't control what you get from a conversation. And you certainly can't control how a letter will take on a new life if you send it to a visual artist. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't send it, that you shouldn't give it, that you shouldn't, channel that thought and that feeling into a written form and vulnerably share it, because there's something so beautiful about a letter. It's not as contrived as memoir, but it is certainly a, more reflective recapitulation of what we're feeling or thinking than just, spontaneous speech. And there's just kind of, yeah, a beautiful tenor about it and something. And we're taking part of a tradition that has like, been a part of human history since the written word was invented, right? Rilke and Lou Andre Salome exchanged long love letters, and so many great artists and great figures in history. And yeah, I mean, I can think of many other, artists, composers, scientists who often, and even just friends, Einstein, used to write a lot of letters to all sorts of famous figures and artists in his lifetime. And that famous one to his daughter, where he contemplates what is love and like, like love is the greatest human mystery and all these things. I mean, sometimes people's best writing happens in the form of a letter because it's deeply contemplative in a non self-conscious way. So I guess, I'm not going to read any of these letters. They're just so zany and they're a bit out of order. But it's just to say, I think that both metaphorically and literally, this idea of when you send a letter or you give anything away, you give your affection, you give your love, you give your time, your energy, it's no concern of ours of how it's received. You can't control other people. You can't control anything in life because the only constant of nature is that it keeps marching on and it keeps evolving and changing. But you give what you give and you receive what you'll receive. And that's kind of the end of the story. There's this ebb and flow. and you participate in that. And ultimately, the ebb and the flow goes back and forth. If you can quiet yourself down enough to realize that it's all the same. It's all just oceaning.